Welcome to the June 20th Board of Health meeting is now in session. Just to remind you all that the meeting is recorded visually and audio. Are there any public comments that is not on the agenda? Sir, I have one question. Could you please just identify yourself? And
I'm Bob Goldzer. I'm actually a resident of Naushop, and I'm actually an applicant to be on the board of
oh,
health.
yes.
And so I came to listen, but I was thinking as I drove here, there's this giant hill of sand next to the shops and that are being built there. And yesterday I saw two children high up on the hill
Right.
of sand. I don't know if that's a Board of Health issue or not, but it looks like it could be a risk to somebody climbing on it.
Well, thank you. I actually am aware of that, and the Plus Department has actually started to take action about it, and I've also notified the police for a safety issue. So not an official Board of Health issue. Well, you can, it could be, it's a safety issue, a health issue, but it has been reported, and the town is in the process of doing what they can. But thank you for your comment. We will go right to, we'll do the minutes later. We'll go to 4 because our lawyer, John, is he here?
I don't see him on there yet. He should have been sent a link.
Oh, please.
I know he's in Alaska. Is that where he is?
Yeah, he's
now?
in Alaska, but
Yeah.
I know he was going to,
Oh, here he comes.
here comes, so we'll do that next.
He's on there.
John, you here?
Yes, hi.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. Good afternoon, everyone.
I certainly appreciate you taking the time off because I guess you're on semi-vacation.
Yeah, semi.
Well, anyway, so do you have any issues, Mary?
So I will recuse myself because I am awaiting official word from the State Board of Ethics, but I am in a butter to the airport, so I will happily go sit over there and speak as a member of the public.
Okay, thank you. All right. So the board of last month discussed this a little bit, and we're concerned about health issues at the airport with the expansion, particularly in 3 areas would be fuel, vapors, PFAS, and noise. But the airport, I understand, is not going to use PFAS on the berm, and they are installing a sound barrier, as I understand. But it's still a potential health issue, and we wanted to know what legal oversight we had of a health issue at the airport. So I asked John to sort of look into this, and go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Malcolm. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to review my opinion. So we really looked at this very carefully, and there are really 2 levels of concern here. One is at the federal level, under the Federal Aviation Act. The airports are comprehensively regulated by the FAA, and there's a doctrine known as the Federal Preemption Document, which basically says that when you have a set of comprehensive regulations by the FAA, there is what's called an intent to occupy the field. So this would, putting aside PFAS for a moment, this has to do primarily with the regulating the movement of aircraft at the airport. And I know there has been quite a bit of discussion about requiring the private jets, essentially, when they're being coming to and from the South Apron expansion project, that they be required to be towed in and towed out in order to avoid essentially air pollution from the jet engines. Um, and that, I'm afraid, is something that the Board of Health does not have authority to regulate. And, we've cited a number of federal court cases dealing with similar issues around the country. And I think it's fair to say that uniformly, the courts have said that is not something that local boards and committees have the authority to regulate. So that's the aircraft movement piece of this. When it comes to environmental laws, and this would have to do essentially with how PFAS is treated, then you have something called CERCLA, which is the federal regulation of the PFAS, which is now in fact regulated by the EPA, and CERCLA stands for the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, and it's at 42 U.S.C. 103. And again, that is a statute that regulates the treatment and disposal of hazardous materials, which clearly PFAS is. That is regulated by EPA, and I have cited cases in my opinion regarding the preemption doctrine as applied to environmental laws, and particularly CERCLA. And I cite the town of Acton case, which is near and dear to my heart because I lived for 25 years in Acton, and I was well aware of the issues that were going on there. But unfortunately, Judge Woodlock in federal court found preemption against the town of Acton. Now, that was in a situation where Acton adopted a bylaw, whereas here, this would be an action potentially being taken by the Board of Health, but it's really no different in terms of the analysis. So I'm afraid any attempt by the Board of Health to regulate the placement and treatment of PFAS at the airport would most likely find a similar fate. Now, at the state level, just like we have the FAA Act, we have the Aviation Act in Massachusetts, which is found in Chapter 90. And again, that's a comprehensive regulation of aviation activities at the airport. And that is done in conjunction with the FAA. But I've cited cases that show there's also a state preemption issue. And then finally, we have grant assurances with which both the Select Board and the Airport Commission have signed whenever they receive grant funds from the FAA, and from the state actually as well. And those grant assurances are enforceable as a contract, and part of those grant assurances were representations by both the Airport Commission and, more importantly, perhaps in this context, the town of Nantucket itself, that there would be no interference with the operation of the airport. So putting all of that together, as I say in my opinion letter, there isn't a lot of room here left for the Board of Health to regulate. I did cite some provisions under Massachusetts Chapter 21E and the ability of the DEP to approve regulations dealing with air pollution at airports, but that is subject, of course, to the federal preemption as well. So my recommendation in this circumstance is I want to say that I fully understand and appreciate the concerns that the Board of Health has. I mean, I sat through obviously town meeting, also the joint meeting of the Board of Health and the Select Board. I believe that was in January or February. And I listened intently to all of the concerns, and I fully understand and appreciate those concerns. I do think that there has been some response by the Airport Commission, in particular with respect to removing the PFAS from the berm. I think that it's likely the airport's going to find a different location on airport property that is not abutting those neighborhoods and not within the berm. But that's all going to have to be approved by the FAA and, of course, both EPA and Mass DEP. So I think that the Board of Health still has an important advisory role here, and I would encourage the board to make its views known in terms of correspondence back to the Airport Commission. And make sure that the Board of Health's voice is heard as this project continues on. But it would be more in a consultation role rather than a regulatory role. But if the Board of Health wants to send a letter, obviously expressing their concerns based upon the current project, then you are certainly free to do so. And I would encourage you to take those steps. So that's basically the sum and substance of my opinion.
John, one question. What about noise?
There's nothing specific about aircraft noise that we could find. What we found in the state law was the regulation of air pollution. But noise, of course, the Board of Health, when you read Chapter 111, sections basically 122, the Board of Health has quite a bit of authority to investigate nuisances, which would include noise, Malcolm. But what happens is you run up against these preemption doctrines under both state and federal law. So I don't really think there's a role for the Board of Health to independently on its own adopt regulations relating to noise. But certainly if that is a concern of the Board of Health through, your own investigation based upon public comment, certainly you could make your voice known by communicating with DEP on both air and noise pollution, as well as the FAA, and make your views known. But again, there's not really a formal regulatory role for the Board of Health to enact regulations or issue an order.
All right. So what we'll do now is we'll have questions from the board, and then we'll open it to public comment. But I just want to list 3 minutes as your public comment time. I've learned that recently is the best way to do it, or we'll be here till breakfast. Okay, questions from the board for this?
John,
Gregory.
thanks. I've read everything, and from what it would seem is that if we are going to try to be consultative in a very positive way, that we should work with the Airport Commission, or is there a different entity in terms of working more directly with FAA or any other powers to be there?
I would recommend you communicate directly with the Airport Commission. They are ultimately, if you will, in charge of this project. They're undertaking the project, albeit with oversight and grant funding from the FAA, but you should make your voice heard with the Airport Commission, at least initially.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions or comments?
Would you recommend that we ask for a meeting with them, an in-person meeting, or make a statement that we sort of deliver to them?
I think you could do either, and I apologize, I don't know everyone's name, but I think you could do either. Has the Board of Health had I don't think you've had a meeting directly with the Airport Commission, is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
So it might be, the best approach might be to make that request for a consultation meeting with both boards. You both post that under the open meeting law, and you all make your comments and concerns known. I think with the meeting that I attended with the select board and the airport, I'm sorry, that was a Board of Health meeting as well. I think that did have some effect. As we know, the PFAS is not going to be enclosed in that berm, and I would credit the neighbors and the concerns of the select board and the Board of Health. But if there's further things that you're concerned about, my recommendation is you request a joint meeting with the Airport Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
James, questions?
I just want, does the Board
Would you
of,
get to your microphone?
does the Board of Selectmen work with the airport, the boards at the airport? Do they know what's going on? Do they have meetings at all together?
We did have a joint meeting back in January or February.
That's,
And there was also Board of Health people there, so.
okay.
What I was going to say is that, airport commissions have a great deal of independent autonomy, both under the general laws and even in your charter, but ultimately the select board do appoint the members of the airport commission. And so that is an important role, oversight, if you will, by the select board. And so I know the select board has been very concerned about this project as well. But again, speaking with one voice as the select board and the Board of Health would probably be helpful. But definitely, if the Board of Health wants to request that meeting and express your concerns, I think that's a good way to go here.
Thank you. All right, any public comment? Again, 3 minutes, please. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, Mary Leffery. I'm a neighbor, and I am here because I think that we all worked really hard on getting 49 to go down. So a couple of things. One, Article 49 did not pass. So that land that they are trying to use is actually zoned residential, which seems that you can't park a private jet on residential land. Another thing is we've been told that this plan has been in the works for 20 years. Well, you know what? Smoking was supposed to be good for us, and we found out that it wasn't and told people to quit. They used to use essentially opium on children's gums to help them with teething. We realized that that was probably not a good thing, and we stopped that. They should know that this land is now right next to, and has been for 30 years, right next to a bunch of people, and I understand that it is a lot harder and a lot more work for them to put all of this stuff on the other side of the airport, but they actually could have spoken to Natural Resources and had this whole project moved to the other side of the airport. But again, it was going to be more work for them to organize that and more work for them to have that area on the other side. Instead, the airport has, just as if saying that smoking is still good for you, we're just going to go forward and keep doing this, even though all of these people that live there have been poisoned. 3 of them have cancer. I have no idea what's going to happen to me. I don't know. I drank that water for over a year. I don't know what's going to happen to me. The airport told us that they had a meeting with Jack Hallowell, and we were told that they agreed to tow in and tow out. And then all of a sudden, after that meeting, they changed their tune. So these stipulations came out of keeping them honest, because they have not been honest. I will tell you, I hear trucks at my house. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is open my sliding glass door. And do you know what I hear? Trucks. Because they're already working at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, moving trucks around. Now, they may not be laying down asphalt at that hour, but they are moving around trucks. You hear the
Could I just
beep,
interrupt?
beep.
Please try to keep this to health issues.
Right, so
'Cause
they
you could-
have, the
you could
reason
talk to
that
the-
we're discussing this is because we put these stipulations on there. These stipulations to their funding came because we wanted to keep them honest and do what is best for the community, because the airport has chosen again and again and again to not do what's best for our community. They have not done what's best for the neighbors. They have not done what's best for Nantucket. So I feel like these are very important to keep. they're dumping the PFAS dirt that they aren't using in the sand pit. So that will go down into our aquifer. Just think about that. Everyone that has town water, it's going to come to you too eventually. So this is going to cause people to, I mean, think about the other towns that have dealt with this, where they've had childhood leukemias and people with liver disease. I watched a great CME this week about thyroid cancer, liver cancer, testicular cancer, huge risk with these forever chemicals that are in that dirt still. So the noise, the smell, the lead, and the PFAS in the dirt, they're just aerosolizing it when they keep digging stuff up. None of this is good. And
Wrap it up. We're getting close to 3.
And that's why these stipulations were put on there, to keep the airport honest.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Greetings, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Arthur Gasparo. I'm the chairman of the Airport Commission. And I just wanted to, I'm not going to even try to get into all of those points and the incorrect statements, but I really want to address the board and let you and the community know that the Airport Commission is very receptive, has been working tirelessly for years on PFAS mitigation, water line extensions, POET systems, filter systems. You know, all the people on the Airport Commission live in this community. And I think that maybe that's lost in some of the rhetoric. There are, as Mr. Giorgio stated, there's a lot of strings attached and restrictions as to how airport revenue can be spent. I'll tell you, before I got involved, I'll tell you 20 years ago, I was the chairman of the Noise Advisory Committee. So, you know, I understand and have learned an awful lot about these issues. And when it started, I used to think that when I was told, oh, you couldn't because of the FAA, as was very detailed in that letter, has been laid out there. It really is a lot of the grant assurances, strings, and you know, procedures that need to be followed. With respect to noise monitoring, you know, the ramp expansion project is very much an effort to be able to better handle the existing corporate jet traffic that has developed over the last decade, to space things out. Some of the components that are included in that project are cameras for monitoring the activity, noise monitoring stations. The government, the Feds, FAA wouldn't fund those, locally funded. I understand I have 3 minutes, and I want to respect that, sir. The airport also recently reviewed a staff's ramp management plan, new additional notifications, signage. You know, the goal is to reduce noise and emissions while maintaining safe operation capability of the airport. And I think that part of the question that can be something of a fine line is, where is the line between necessity and convenience? So that being said, essentially, the airport is federally funded and part of the United States of America's transportation infrastructure. It is a huge asset to Nantucket. And how that's operated in terms of being compliant, but that, you know, essentially the aircraft shouldn't operate longer than needed for safe operation. And that's what we're trying to improve, management at the ramp level. I certainly welcome input from the Board of Health. If there's things that you want to talk about with the commission, whether it's a joint meeting, whether it's to send a letter, you know, we're all in the same community together, and let's work on this. PFAS, you know, is a horrible thing that impacts everybody, but you have to please remember, the airport was mandated, if you operated, to use that product as part of a firefighting operation. And so all we can do now is to try to best mitigate for that, which is really the water line installations and continuing connections. So
Wrap it up.
thank you, sir, but I just
Thank
wanted
you,
to
sir.
say that, you know, we are receptive and hear you.
Thank you. You just might want, if she has trucks running at 5:30 in the morning, that's something you ought to look into.
It's already been addressed, sir.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have one on the board here, or the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Okay, Megan? You're breaking up a lot there, Megan.
separate comments, so is that 3 minutes for
Yeah.
each one, or is it 3 minutes
Can't hear.
total?
It's 3 minutes total. You're breaking up a lot, are you?
I have 3 separate comments. Is it 3 minutes for each one, or just 3 total? Just so I know how quick to talk.
I'd say 3 minutes for a,
3 minutes. We'll give you 3.5.
Can you hear me that any better? Any better? Around. Can you hear me any better?
yes.
Can you hear me okay to speak or no? You can hear me okay to speak?
Yes.
Okay. So one question might be more directed at Mr. Giorgio. I don't know if he's on still, but the Board of Health had the ability to be stricter during COVID than state was. So I'm curious if the Board of Health can be stricter in this instance with health concerns regarding the airport. In terms of enforcement concerns, there clearly is a lack of enforcement if construction vehicles are operating at 5 a.m. I know in the past, construction vehicles have been going out to, say, Sconset to the Bluff. They have not been able to enter Sconset just with a truck full of sand until 7 a.m. That was a hard stop for summer residents. I don't think that we should be treating our local year-round residents next to the airport any different. Construction shouldn't start, and that means trucks running, beeping, whatever,
Yeah, but
until
Megan,
the bylaw allows for. I know
let's
that's
keep,
Board
let's
of
keep it to
Health,
health, let's keep it to health
but my
issues.
point being, enforcement is not happening. So, and then in terms of the grant assurance, if you don't apply for the grants, then you don't have to do all the things required by them. So the Board of Health might need to be involved in the grants in the future. So the Board of Health can chime in on whether or not there are health concerns with the strings attached to the grants that are being applied for. And the Airport Commission has to go to the Select Board to discuss the grants they're applying for. So it wouldn't be too difficult to also involve the Board of Health or have the Board of Health be brought in on the grants that are being applied for to say, gee whiz, this is a health concern. Maybe you shouldn't apply for this grant because it's going to require you harm humans in the process. I know that's a lot more work, but it would make it so that you don't have to say, we have to do this. FAA requires it because we got $1 million from them to do X, Y, and Z. It might be an area where the Board of Health can help advise the Airport Commission on a better way to do things so that we're not in this predicament of saying we have to do this because we accepted money to do it. I hope you guys are able to hear all of those comments. So, thank you.
Thank you. Megan, you got another couple seconds. All right, thank you. Because you kind of started us on this path. Any other comments from the board? Pleasure of the board, next steps? Gary?
I think we have the direct,
Yep.
invitation to have a joint meeting or at least a joint discussion. I mean, it probably would be good to take advantage of that. And at least I'll clarify, part of it is sort out the reality from the non-reality. The other is, where, there are, from what Mr. Giorgio was saying, we do have absolute limits as our authority over a federal land, and but we should be learning from that for future. So just to be able to have that discussion and kind of have this more open dialogue between the commission, between the Board of Health and the commission would, I think, at least be a good start.
All right. Do we want to make a formal statement, a formal letter about our health concerns, and we'd like to be more cooperative? I would like.
Yeah, I mean, it's best to go into a meeting with known agenda and known concerns. I mean, it allows both sides to kind of develop a response, and then also it kind of focuses the conversation rather than something that just goes off into space.
Mr. Gasparo, and then we'll.
Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest, just in the interest of, efficiency for everybody, and maybe if there was some certain points and you wanted to start before a meeting with simply a letter with your questions and concerns, and we could work to address them. It would be a public document. It could come back to you, and we could maybe work that way. But I just wanted to offer that as,
Yeah, thank you.
considerate of everyone's time heading into summer as well.
I was thinking of that line to put a formal letter together like we did with the firemen's,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, made at least it made our concerns clear.
yeah, so,
And-
and we'll,
and focused.
I'm going to try to follow that up at the next meeting, or the
Okay.
next chairman can follow that up at the next meeting. So I can work on that, or would a subcommittee
Yeah, I
of
mean,
two people
we
like to
will,
work
wanted
together?
to do that back and forth,
Like-
kind of
like
construct a letter and,
Ann and Carrie, would you,
Sure.
can only be two of you, we can't have three.
okay, that's right.
You want to work, and I have some,
Yeah.
I have some literature on some of these issues. I can send you those if you'd kind of.
That's great. And I think.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If the Board of Health appoints a subcommittee to draft that letter, that subcommittee is subject to the open meeting law, even though it's only two members.
Yeah, that's right. You're correct. Real quick, and then we're going to move
Very
on.
quick, just another thought, Mr. Chairman. Another option might be that you and I and the airport manager all sit down and have a discussion once you've collected the comments from the board. So just however you want, but, again, I want to just offer that I'm happy to try to do that in a way that
Okay.
might help.
Efficiency, would one of you like to start drafting something?
Yeah, I've been following this.
If you
so I-
follow
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that'll
I've been
make,
following
if
it
we
now.
have a subcommittee, then it gets
Yeah, it gets
complicated.
crazy, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
So you're a subcommittee of one, outline, appoints, and then we'll pass that on to the airport commission. How's that sound?
Is it permissible for the other members of the Board of Health to
it.
send their questions and comments to Carrie?
Individually, but you can't
Yeah.
comment on it. And then once we have a document, we'll review it as a whole.
Okay.
Okay?
And that review will occur at a posted meeting of the whole board.
Yeah,
I
that's
think-
what, that's what we did with the firefighters and
Yeah,
their
I think that's fine.
need for additional physicals.
Right.
All right, thank you. So this is a health concern. And I think the board, I would like to see in the future, get a little more involved in more public, even if we can't regulate it, but make more statements and consultations to health issues. And as we said before, we want to do review all the warrants at town meetings before they come and comment if in fact there's something to comment on. We won't comment on zoning, but we'll comment on, unless it's a health issue. All right, thank you very much.
I'm not sure if Megan you still have your hand up, Megan?
I did. I didn't know if have stricter rules than state and FAA could be answered. And then I also wanted to point out that the airport property is owned by the town, not the FAA.
Is that a question? I didn't quite hear it.
I'm sorry. My first comment initially was that during COVID, the Board of Health was able to be stricter than the state. And I'm wondering if the Board of Health is able to be stricter with regulations or rules or implementing things in this instance as well, because it's a human health concern.
I'll let Mr.
And-
Giorgio answer that. I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
that's-
no, that's not, unfortunately, Megan, that's not the case. COVID was a different situation where the governor used his emergency powers to, issue a whole set of regulations that contemplated local action as well. So there was no preemption issue with respect to the COVID situation. Here, however, the comprehensive regulation at the federal level in particular precludes local action by the Board of Health. They're two very different things.
Okay. Well, thank you all. We will keep abreast of this, and we'll have some formal communication to the Airport Commission outlining our concerns and offer to be more of assistance in the future. And we'll pay attention to the progress of the airport expansion and the health issues. All right, next, thank you, thank you, John.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You guys have a good rest of your meeting, okay?
I'll see you at 6.
Yeah, right. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so we have minutes to approve. First of all, the May 2nd meeting, which was an open meeting going into executive session. I was not mentioned to being there. And
that's right.
I was there.
You were there,
I was there, so,
but yeah, there was a little snafu at the beginning.
so I need a motion to approve those amended that Dr. McNabb was present.
Motion to approve the amended minutes that would include your presence.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. May 16th meeting, any comments, reviews, or addition? Do we hear a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes for the May
May
meeting.
16th, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. May 16th minutes are approved. Condemnation of dwelling at 5 Sandplain Drive.
Yeah, so we received a complaint initially of a sewage breakout on the property. And we responded and found that to be the case. And actually the building sewer pipe from the house had been cut due to some work that was going on at the neighboring property. And they were unable, well, they cut and capped it. They capped it on our order because of the construction work that was going on next door. So they weren't able to, the planning wasn't really working out with where the buildings were sited and where the existing building sewer was located on the property. So essentially, the reality is that the house didn't have functioning sanitary sewer system. So initially, that was the basis for the condemnation. And then the inspectors went back and found some more violations. There's some mattresses in an unfinished basement downstairs. Smoke detectors were not functioning and needed to be brought up to current standards. But sewer was the number one factor in that. So can't live in a house without a sewer system.
So everybody's out?
Yes, and the building's been secured.
Okay.
Was the work that was done to cause the damage done under permit, or was that one of the quiet jobs?
I'd assume so. I hope so. I don't know. I
Okay.
didn't check on any building
wondering.
permit or anything for that. That work's being done is there's town sewer on both. So this actually has to connect to town sewer, but I think they plan on demolishing the building in the next few months anyways. So they were trying to kind of squeak by with this building, I think, to house workers. So, yeah, we received the complaint, responded, and wasn't a good situation. So
Thank you.
So you want our approval of condemnation?
that's correct, yes.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to condemn,
To approve the
to
condemnation.
approve the condemnation of 5 Sandplain Drive.
Second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, someone has their hand up.
Who has their hand up? I can't.
Hi, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is Isaiah Truman, and it just looked like we skipped over 10 Polywog, so I was a little confused.
And a septic loan. That's another
It-
item.
It's coming along, okay.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, the motion has been made. Any further discussion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Chairman says aye. Condemnation is approved. Local upgrade approval, butters
Oh,
notification.
Mr. Chair,
You gotta-
we're going to go back to
Number 5.
item number 5. Maybe your agenda, maybe I need to give you an updated agenda because the order switched around.
I thought
a
that
little
was,
bit.
the condemnation was 5.
No, the septic loan requests, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next one? What,
Over 10
10
Pollywog
Pollywog
Pond.
Pond.
Yeah,
Road.
septic loan request for 10
Loan
Pollywog
request.
Pond Road.
let's wait on, I have it at number 12, all right. Septic loan request, 10 Pollywog Pond Road.
This is a septic to sewer scenario on Pollywog Pond Road. We have no issues with it. It's been, these have been approved many times in the past.
Yep.
It's a local family.
Any question?
It's just a comment, not about the loan, but this form that they filled out, is it available to the public? I mean, as a result of being on our agenda?
Yeah, it's in the
Okay,
packet,
so
correct,
my
right?
concern is that when they ask for ID, we are publishing their license number. And I just think that we've got to come up with a better way to validate that the person maybe is a resident or non-resident, but it looks like a motor vehicle license to me.
Okay,
And that shouldn't be,
Yeah.
that information should be protected.
You can black that out when you publish it.
okay.
I mean, you'll have reviewed it, so please do that.
Yeah, just because
Yeah,
No, it can't be distributed.
but I have no question about the application, it's just that,
Yeah,
that
well-
jumped out at me.
sounds like the health department will take care of that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the loan, approving the loan request for 10 Pollywog Pond, say aye.
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 Chairman says aye, the loan request is approved.
Thank you.
Listen, so now I have these strange numbers. I have number,
I'll get you a new,
yeah.
I'll get you an agenda.
Local number 7, local upgrade approval of butters notification 23 Clarendon.
that's what I have as 6. All right,
That's,
all right, that's what I figured. Oh, condemnation of dwelling. Local upgrade of butters notification 23 Clarendon Street.
Let's see, yep, I have Mr. Santos is here. Okay, Paul?
Yes, thank you, John. Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors on behalf of the property owner, Lowell and Barbara Shea. This is a local upgrade approval, which under local and state regulations can be approved by staff, with the exception of a case when you have a setback request reduction from the property line. In that case, you are required to notify any affected abutters at least 10 days prior to a public hearing in which they would have the opportunity to speak. And that's why we're before you today. This is an upgrade of a pre-1995 system in Tom Nevers, in which the system will be brought into compliance with regard to the appropriate sizing and septic tank size. But again, as many of you are aware, the well locations in Tom Nevers present some constraints with regard to where systems can and can't go. In this particular case, we're able to respect all the 100-foot setbacks to the private wells, but we are before you because we're asking for a reduction in the setback from a property line from 10 feet to 5 feet. There are 3 abutters who have been affected. The owner has spoken directly to the abutter to the north, which is Power Landscaping, Inc., which I believe is Frank Powers. And in fact, his lot sought a similar request back some years ago when that system was upgraded. There's a vacant lot to the west, a woman by the name of Olivia Prouty Gill. We've had, to my knowledge, no correspondence, and she's not reached out to either myself or the Board of Health with any particular concerns. And we have one other abutter at 30 Dartmouth Street to the west, Susan Petty and Roland Fry. They did reach out to me after receiving the certified mail. I personally went out there, met with them. They were unaware of the process and wanted some information. The one thing that they did ask is that we provide a impervious barrier along their property line, similar to what we're doing on the inside of the site. And I agreed to that. And I don't believe they had any other concerns. And we agreed to provide that mitigation on their behalf. So again, not to get too winded here, but the reason we're here is to satisfy the state requirement with regard to notice of abutters and give the abutters a chance to opine on the application. The staff will do a full review and an approval of hopefully approval of the system itself. But the reason we're here today is the abutter notification. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, I did have one quick one. And again, and this is less about, which well belongs to this property? The one in the lower corner? There's two wells next to each other. One's on the property, but I can't tell if that is their supply or somebody else's.
Sure. If you're looking at the plan itself, the lot is rectangular. It's 100-foot square. In the lower, if you look on the southerly line of Clarendon Street, there's two wells clustered together.
Yeah.
Our well is the one to the north. The abutting well is the one to the south. And you'll see all the radiuses, all the circular radiuses that come in. The area that's open is where the system would go. So we've respected the 100-foot setback from our well and also from all abutting wells within the area.
Okay, thank you.
Comments from staff?
No concerns. I mean, this is common out in this area.
And they'll come back to you with all the other approvals and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd have a motion to approve a butters notification for 23 Clarendon Street.
Motion to approve the 23 Clarendon Street plan.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Notification's approved.
Thank you very much.
Variance request for a shared septic system, 190, 192, and 194 Hummet Pond Road.
I think Mr. Blackwell's here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm old-fashioned, so I brought additional paper for you, which I think will be,
See what I have, sir?
I've got more. So if I could beg your indulgence, I would hand out information of each of the board members, which includes the original permit issued earlier this year.
Yeah, we'll share.
Okay, thank you. And then overall, the plan, you may be perfectly happy to view on your screens. Paper plan of the same. Easier to see everything.
I have this copy.
Okay.
Is this? No.
That is for the previous.
All right.
Where's this? Let me flip that around for you.
All right.
Sure. All right.
So this is sort of a strange one. The history here is that I had originally submitted a request for a shared system approval back in December of 2023, and received a call from John, and we talked about the section of the Title V regulation, and the language is tortured, to boil it down into one word. And at that time, we agreed that no variance was necessary, and John advised that this was not a matter that required the review of the Board of Health. A design was completed to serve 190, 192, and 194. All three lots are owned by the Turner family. Two is private ownership, and one is Mr. Turner as a trustee of a trust. There's two existing structures, one at 192 and one at 194, and the application included a new structure on a vacant lot at 190. The application was approved and a building permit was issued, and construction has gone forward of a modular home, which is largely complete at this point. Part of the shared system requirements in Title V is that there are documents, easement documents, financial assurance documents, and so forth, which you have in the paper packet there, first page only, that are required for shared systems so that the owners, the three owners in this case, will maintain the system. If there's a problem with the system, there's a financial mechanism to repair the system, and there's cross easements, so everyone is involved in a mini community way of maintaining this system. The system that it was approved in March meets all Title V requirements. It replaces two non-compliant conventional systems that were installed even before, well, the one is a 1979 era design, and the other one was installed prior to 1979. And those systems will be abandoned as part of the design for the single shared leach field that will serve all three all three properties. So after the building permit issued, I got to work on the assurance documents and easements with the owner and the owner's attorney, and those were submitted to the health department because those would have to be executed before we can get a sign-off certificate of compliance at the end of the project. And the health department staff went back to the Title V section on shared systems, reread the statute, and decided that, oh, we do need a variance for this. So this is kind of strange because we were granted a permit, the house is largely constructed, and now we're coming back after the fact for a variance that would have properly been considered prior to issuance of the disposal works construction permit. The standards for Title V variance, which were included in the packet there, call out basically three conditions to be satisfied. This is 310 CMR 15410. If I could just read those to you. The person requesting the variance is established that enforcement of the provision of Title V from which the variance is sought would be manifestly unjust, considering all relevant facts and circumstances of the relevant case. I submit that we have satisfied, we comply with that manifest injustice. at this point, given that the building has been constructed. The second is the person requesting the variance has established that a level of environmental protection that is at least equivalent to that provided under Title V can be achieved without strict application of 310 CMR 15, from which the variance is sought. There was never any question in the review and issuance of the permit in March that this system complies with Title V. It's a modern system, all new septic tanks, compliant leach field and reserve area, replacing 2 non-compliant systems and also serving 1 new house. So I would offer my opinion that that condition is satisfied. Finally, with regard to variances for new construction, the board must find that enforcement of the provision for which a variance is sought must be shown to deprive the applicant of substantially all beneficial use of the subject property in order to be manifestly unjust. And this applies to the previously vacant lot for which there is now a house. I think that we can all agree that the board's failure to grant the variance would, in effect, create a situation where a house is not occupiable and the beneficial use of that property would have been removed from the owners. So I think it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I think that a variance is warranted. We're here at I've never run into a situation where the house is basically built, now I'm applying for a variance.
Yeah.
So I think the board should grant a variance, and I'll
Yeah,
try to answer any questions you may have.
can you or the staff explain to me what the difference was? You said they went back and found that you needed a variance. And on what ground?
Well, basically with a shared.
Simple sentence.
I'll try. Basically, with a shared system, you're supposed to demonstrate that on each of the 3 properties, you could construct a individual septic systems that would comply with Title V, is sort of a proof hurdle before you move on to the approval of a shared system. These lots, the 3 Churner lots, were created in the bad old days before surveyors and engineers became strict about testing soil before creating lots. And I did 10 soil tests on these properties, resulting in the 2 that were successful on number 194, which became the shared system. On all other 8 soil tests, the testing failed Title V standards. The soil is characterized by silt, clay, high groundwater, basically impermeable soils. So the only solution in this case for all 3 properties was to share 1 leach field. So the demonstration of individual systems on each of the 3 properties was not possible. And that's why the variance provision is included in Title V, because we can't satisfy that hurdle.
I got it. Comments, John, and then comments from the board?
I mean, so I think there was a little bit of confusion on my part, since all 3 lots are in reality owned by the same person. 2 of the lots are in the same name, and then 1 of the lots is in a trust.
But it's the same person.
Yes, correct. So I think perhaps that's where there was some confusion on my part, because a shared system wouldn't be required in that scenario if the owner owns all 3 properties. two of these houses are existing, one on each lot, and then as Mr. Blackwell described, they're building a new house on 190. And yeah, the soils are not good in this particular place. I think Jeff was out twice doing perk tests.
3 times.
Three times.
It's,
So in reality, it's the same owner that owns,
Yeah.
that takes care of this. You know, they could go the extra step and do the easement and the financial mechanism for each lot to pay for, you know, if any part of the system fails, to cover
right.
the costs.
Questions from the board?
So is the system designed to take all 3 lots? I
Yeah,
mean, like, what's the total, what's the total bedrooms?
it's 12 total bedrooms, and each lot is, well, I think one of the lots a little bit smaller, but the lot where the leach field's going is 3 acres, which is,
So is your decision based on all 3 houses running at the same time? To satisfy, I mean, if all 3 houses would have run at the same time, would it still satisfy the whole system?
it does, yeah, the
does,
lot
okay, fine.
is large enough to accommodate, yeah, that's the design is in compliance. And section 15292, section 2, the board, it does allow the board, Title 5 does allow the board to grant a variance. So,
So
if
are
these
they-
conditions aren't.
what are the requirements for the 3 people on the one system?
To maintain the system.
That's it. So
Yeah.
what happens if one house is sold?
Yeah.
Well, then the covenant and easement document needs to be in place, the financial mechanism, you know, it's either recorded with the deed, in the deed, that they've agreed to cover the maintenance costs of, you know, any failure of the system. So, we've
So
seen that
what
on
I'm
a few
saying is,
occasions.
if someone bought the 3rd house,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they would automatically be able to share in that system.
Yeah, they'd have to assume the
Right.
role of
Okay.
being part of the shared system's costs.
Is that spelled out in any of the documents that are there? Can I live out where we have shared systems and it wasn't spelled out?
Yeah, Jeff did supply all that. I think he's just making a correction on there for the chairman to sign it.
That's right. There's 4 documents and it's very well defined. Each lot owner, whether it stays in the family or goes out of this common family ownership, all the properties are required to continue to contribute for maintenance, and they have also the benefit of the access to the shared leach field and the lines running across various properties. It's all very well documented.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a question.
Please.
So you said that the soil is not good for, I guess this, so is it 190 where the septic tank and the leach field will be?
No,
On
194.
194, so 194 is the only one that has good land, good soil. And so it also, I guess, the water table's high enough to put a water feature in? Is that a pool?
well, two questions there. So that, yes, the soil is suitable at 194, and that's where the system has been designed. There is a water feature at 190 that I would guess did not require a liner. They simply dug a hole and it created a pond because the water cannot go into the soil. Was that your question?
No, I guess I don't see on here where, if this is where, do you mind showing me? Yeah. If this is where the existing, so where is the new one going?
Right here.
Right there, okay. So this is the pond?
That's a water feature that they've had, for years.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like a new thing that was going in, and I was wondering if if the ground is not suitable to put a septic, that it may not be a good place for,
It's a great
but
place for a
that's,
water feature.
yeah,
At 190, and this is
Yeah.
a great place for a leach.
okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, do I have a motion to deny or approve the variance?
I move to approve the variance.
Do I hear a second?
What was the motion?
To approve the variance.
I'll second that.
1 second. Any further discussion? Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman?
Thank you. Variance request for installation of seasonal use of tote tank at 334 Nantucket Road.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Arthur Gasparo for the applicant. This is the property that is the last property at the end of Nantucket Road, suffering from some erosion, and we're seeking to install a tight tank of equivalent capacity under the seasonal use provision of Title V, so it completely complies with Title V. It does reference approval of the requiring approval of the authority, and the discussion with the staff felt that that should come to the board. And so again, there's no increase in capacity. There's some erosion, and we've received both zoning board approval and conservation commission approval to pick up the structures and move them away from the eroding coastal bank, and likewise the tight tank would be placed as far away from the bank as possible, as shown on the plan between the structures, and whereas the existing septic system may be compromised for that. I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions?
And how many
The property,
bedrooms?
we moved the garage back.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, sir.
Carrie?
Yeah, how many bedrooms are in that structure?
3.
3, okay, thank you.
Comments, John?
I mean, the board's approved this type of a situation before. It's, as Art said, moving the house back from the bank and installing a tight tank to get a few more years out of the house. So,
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion regarding a variance request for the installation of a tight tank at 334 Nantucket Road?
Can I ask a quick question first?
Of course.
When these are usually put in, there's like an agreement to have it, that it's monitored, or is that not the tight tanks? To get that they have to be cleaned out
They have to be
every,
cleaned out.
There's an automatic alarm that
okay.
supposedly goes off, that notifies the
it's
septic.
just an area that's so close to the water
Oh,
that I would
that's-
want to make sure that there's a plan to make
They're
sure that.
required to do that.
Okay,
yeah, they're required to submit we have them submit a pumping contract with the septic hauler, so.
Yep. Okay, motion?
Motion to accept the tight tank proposal for 3034 Nantucket Road.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Chairman says aye. The
Thank
tight
you.
tank is approved. Variance request for upgrade or approval of septic set banks at 17 Sashasha Road.
All right, Don's here.
Hi, Don Bracken, Bracken Engineering, for the applicant. This was a very challenging septic system upgrade in this location. We're not proposing any work on the house, so we filed this under local upgrade approval, requiring several local upgrade variances under the state regulations and under the local regulations. Currently, there's a two-bedroom house on the site, served by a septic tank, pump chamber, and a leaching pit. If you look in the plan, the existing leaching pit is located in the upper right-hand corner of the lot, and the well is located on the other side of the lot, on the western side of the lot. There are several things we had to deal with to try to come up with the best solution. Many resource areas on the property. Obviously, it abuts Sesachacha Pond, which is a nitrogen-sensitive pond, requires a 300-foot setback under the local Board of Health regulations. There's a beach area. There's also a coastal dune area that has been delineated by our wetland consultant. It's also in the flood zone, the lower portion of the property. And because it's in the flood zone, there's a steep bank from the road that drops directly off toward the house. That steep bank becomes a coastal bank by definition under the Wetlands Protection Act. It's not a coastal bank that we would think of as like a bluff or something eroding or something that directly abuts the beach. It's only a coastal bank by definition because the flood zone, 100-year flood zone, comes up and just barely touches the bottom of the bank. So the existing leaching pit is actually in this technical coastal bank. And I think that's important because when we go through the variance request, you'll see that we're asking for variances to the coastal bank, and I want you to have an understanding of what it actually looks like. It's wooded, very well vegetated. So we looked at many different alternatives, and up in the northwest corner of the property, adjacent to the road, if you look at the plan, there's a very narrow area of flat space where the existing parking spaces are. And we chose that to put in a leaching trench. Again, this is on the west side, opposite of where the existing leaching system is on the east side. And in doing that, we're also proposing to move the well all the way to the east side as far as we can in order to get the 100-foot separation to where we're proposing the new leaching trench. We also have the benefit that the land to the east is owned, I think, by the land bank, but it's undevelopable. So we didn't have any concern with the septic locations on that side. The land to the west is a strip of land owned by the town. We were, as the case before you, we're asking for a variance to that lot line, but the town owns that property. We did notify the town. We haven't heard anything back from them. And we need a variance to the street line as well, but no one needs to be notified for that. So I'll go through our requested list that we're looking for. The first one is, to the 100-foot regulation to a wetland. Again, the location of the leaching trench is only 7 feet from that coastal bank that I described. And it's also only 64 feet from the coastal dune. Obviously, in this case, the most sensitive receptor here is the pond itself, and the leaching trench would be 159 feet from the pond. So we're asking for that variance, the nitrogen-sensitive area under the 300-foot requirement, as I mentioned. This is where it might get a little confusing. So even though we're a grandfathered lot from that 300-foot well protection zone, if you look at the plan, we call it the pill shape. We show the pill shape for the abutting lots that are going to be affected. So there are 3 properties that we can't meet that pill shape requirement, but we do meet Title V and the 100-foot setback. And one of them is to our own property. In the other 2 properties, the existing septic is actually closer to their wells right now than what we're proposing. So, and again, meets all Title V setbacks. And then under the state regulations, as I already mentioned, we need 10-foot setback from roads and property lines. We're asking for one foot to the road and 5 feet from the vacant lot that's owned by the town. The other Title V local upgrade approval that we're asking for is reduction of the leaching trench size. It's a 2-bedroom house, so We couldn't fit a leaching trench to handle the entire 2 bedrooms. Title V allows you to reduce the area of the leaching system by 25% if you use an IA system, which obviously we're using an IA system in this case, septic tech system. And so I guess in summary, I would say that this is a very, vast improvement over the existing conditions that were there. And I'm sure John will agree that there are so many constraints on the site. I think we did the best possible job we could. Thank you.
Questions for the board?
Yeah, in, I guess, the southwest corner, but the proposed dirtbag dewatering system? What's that?
Yeah, well, we're very close to the groundwater where the septic tanks are gonna go. And so we're gonna have to put in dewatering wells. And this is typical what the conservation will require us to do, so that we're not just spewing it out on the ground. Basically, it's a large bag. They hook the hose into it from the well, and the water that's being pumped out of the ground goes into the bag, fills the bag, and the bag is porous, and the water just seeps out over a larger area, so.
What is in that water?
It's groundwater. It's just in order to put the septic tanks in, they're gonna be below the groundwater. So in order to dig them and install them, we'll be digging out that loose sand in the water table, so. And it's probably gonna take more than one well, it may take a couple of wells in order to get that water level down fast enough to get the tanks in.
John?
I mean, it's a very restrictive site. It's a really tough site, so the current system's failed. I would agree. I think this is the best situation. The leach fields, as far as it can be from the pond, right up by the street, so.
It's quite a feat, engineering feat.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take that as a
No,
compliment. Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. Anyway, okay, any other questions from the board? Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the variance.
And do I hear a second?
Before we second it, did we get a list of all of the variances that they are requesting?
Well, the way we'll do it is, I'm sorry I didn't hear you. The motion can be we accept the variances outlined in the application to the board, unless there was one particular that you did not approve of. So if you approve of all the variances, the motion is to approve the variances as stated in the application, and in the minutes, you will list them all.
Okay, yeah. we can do
Specifically.
that. Yeah, so it'd be the property line, soil reduction. I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Yeah, they're all itemized in the letter.
They're all in the,
And
Okay.
Yeah,
page
sorry, I
2 of
don't-
the plan, page 2 of the plan has a box that has the health requests, the health variance requests.
Yeah, it should,
This came in-
they're usually on there.
after the others, but it was in time. All right, so we have a motion, Mary has seconded. All in favor? Say aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carrie? He's thinking.
Aye.
It's up, you know,
Yeah, no, I realize that like you said, this is a mess of a site to.
I'm not sure
deal
there's
with.
another option.
Yeah, and we're not throwing the house away, so hopefully, is there any deed restriction to prevent any larger housing, anything to change? I mean, it's a 2-bedroom house, and with all this work to make it work, it shouldn't be larger.
Correct, we have to put a 2-bedroom, by Title V, we have to put a 2-bedroom deed restriction on. We'll do that when we do the deed notice for the IA system at the same time.
Okay, I mean, at least I'm a little more comfortable with that, okay? Aye.
You're an aye, and Jim's an aye. Chairman says aye.
Thank you.
That's one of the most complicated ones I've seen
Yeah.
in a long time. Good luck. Determination of disposal system construction permit for 9 New Jersey Avenue.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to review this on the packet there. This is another bit of a tricky one. Well, perhaps just to me. This is in the Nantucket tight tank district area. And what they're proposing is to move, relocate the current dwelling on the house, which by the assessor's record says is a 2-bedroom house. And they're looking to relocate that on the lot. And in order to do that, they need to relocate their current 4-bedroom IA system in order to incorporate the new construction that's going to go on. So the proposal, which I've seen in the office, is from 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. I can be corrected if the main house is not 2 bedrooms. I'm going by the assessor's data on that. So essentially, it's whether the board determines that this property owner can relocate this IA system to allow for the new construction on the house to occur, or deny that to happen based on this being in the tight tank district, over the bridge in Nantucket. And, I would just kind of advise trying to stay consistent with the tight tank requirements that the board has made in the past. Obviously, there's been another one that was down the road, which was determined by the board to install a tight tank. So that was based on a separation failure. And so the other kind of caveat to this would be, by Title V, there's no new construction on a tight tank. So, you can't just install.
We'll have a remand hearing next month
Yes,
in a similar situation.
correct, yes. So, what I'm looking for from the board is to make a determination on the application.
Well, let's hear that.
But, so just to clarify, one point, we are showing the IA tanks to be relocated along with the new soil absorption system. The existing soil absorption system received local upgrade approval to be a foot off the property line. So we could still build this proposed development on the site by keeping the existing soil absorption system, but we wanted to present a plan to you that would fully comply with Title V. So that's why we're replacing the entire IA system and the soil absorption system. And I would agree with John that, it's currently a 2-bedroom house. But what's on record with the town is a 4-bedroom septic design. And I think, in past projects and even interpretations from DEP, if there's an approved permit for a certain amount of bedrooms, you're grandfathered for that number of bedrooms. So in this case, we should be grandfathered for up to 4 bedrooms because there was a permit issued in, I think it was 2006, by the Board of Health for the 4 bedrooms. How they came up with that 4 bedrooms, there's nothing really in the records to show. The only thing that I think it's a pretty good guess, is they looked at the leaching pit that was there that the new system was going to replace, and they saw that leaching pit was capable of having 4 bedrooms. Pretty sure that was common practice back in those days. What we did was we designed so we don't have to have the 50-foot setbacks to property lines, 150 feet to wells. We're also in a dome area, so we don't have that groundwater flow direction with the 300-foot well protection radius to deal with. Basically, we've come up with something that we feel complies with everything. And I think the issue that it comes down to is the terminology of the Board of Health regulations, because we're in the tight tank district, that says the board may require a tight tank. Now, in my own interpretation, I would assume that that would be used in cases where you couldn't have a compliant system, you know what I mean? Where you had no other choice. And Arthur Reed is here with me also representing the owners, so if he wants to add anything.
Yeah, once again, the tight tank regulation starts off by speaking of a circumstance in which the system needs to be replaced. And this is not a situation where there is any type of failure, hydraulic or technical. This is a situation where there's an existing, functioning, permitted IA system in place. And all we are asking for in this application is to be able to relocate that system on the lot in a manner that is more compliant with present regulations than the existing system. So it would seem to us that together with the may language in a regulation I don't think even really applies to us because of the fact that the system is not required to be replaced, I think that that the application should be allowed and that we should be able to relocate the IA system on the lot exactly as presented as Don described it.
So it's a relocation of an IA system for a 4-bedroom property that only has got 2 bedrooms. Yeah, all right.
Well, that's what the system is, that's what the present system is designed for and is approved for.
Yep, exactly.
But we don't know where the 4-bedroom concept came from.
But
I
that's
mean,
what it's,
it appeared on some record at some point.
From what research Don has done, I haven't gotten into it myself yet, it doesn't seem clear. And the assumption is that it would be based upon the system that it was replacing back in 2006 or 7, whenever it was, that the permit for the current system was issued.
And is there a proposal, again, this would be, technically a 2-bedroom, could theoretically be a 4-bedroom, is the plan to make it a 4-bedroom house?
Yeah, once again, it's a 4-bedroom system and should be considered as grandfathered as such under the state regulations.
okay. Jim?
He now has an IA system,
Yeah,
so he legally can do the construction he wants.
yeah,
All right, but the problem is, we're trying to get tight tanks over there. And in the rule here, it says a tight tank shall not be approved for any new construction. So I'm a little confused.
It's a bit of a tough scenario. Essentially, and I've spoke with Jeff Carlson in Natural Resources, and they're, in favor of trying to get everything on a tight tank in that area as well. Now, if you restrict everybody to a tight tank in that area, essentially there's no new construction at all. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. Not that,
Okay, so in other words, he can't do the construction he needs unless he moves the IA system tank, right? The IA system.
I'm not sure that's right, Jim. The regulation, the regulation related to tight tanks reads, if a party currently owns and/or operates an on-site wastewater disposal system located on property that is shown on Figure 1 Nantucket Tight Tank District, which the board has determined requires an upgrade under, CMR and is defined in the local regulations, and is located within the above referenced geographic location, the Nantucket Board of Health has determined that the property owner may be required to utilize a tight tank in lieu of a conventional or IA system, so on and so forth. Once again, that all, by its language, relates to a system which is required to be replaced. This is a system which does not require replacement.
Right.
It's the election of the property owner to replace it. So the regulation in question is inapplicable. Again, you have the may as against shall language, which of course got recently discussed in the case in the appeals court, but that's not the point here. In this case, whether it's may or shall, as we read the regulation, it's not applicable because, once again, it's a functioning IA system, duly approved, not in any type of failure, and therefore not requiring replacement.
Any other comments from the board?
I guess I haven't quite understood the reason for or the purpose of replacing a fully functional IA 4-bedroom system.
Well,
What is the purpose of doing that?
that's a good question, because if you really read our desire and the conservation group's desire is to have tight tanks over there. However, if you read the regulation, it says essentially it's a functioning system. So it doesn't really apply to the regulations as presently written.
You're right, it doesn't. He can do everything he wants legally.
Based on despite our desire, we would have to change the regulations to make our desire happen. Because I'm just a simple physician and not a lawyer, but the way I read the law or the regulation, I think Arthur's right.
Can I ask a
But what's the purpose? What's he trying to accomplish by doing this? I don't think I understand that.
The purpose is to demolish the existing structure and build a new structure. And where the new structure is going, the tanks are there, we have to relocate the tanks.
Okay.
And we could leave the soil absorption system and replacing it. 'Cause
All right.
It's 18 years old now, even though it hasn't failed. And we're also putting in
All
compliance
right,
with the
I
setback.
understand. It has to do with moving the dwelling or
Changing
changing
the
the
dwelling.
dwelling. It's not that it is needing or anything. But in order to move the dwelling, you can't have the
Right.
septic system where it currently
Right.
is.
John, could you go back over the part where, or somewhere where it talks about new construction?
Yeah, in regard to tight tanks
Yeah.
or,
In this the particular regulation we have to deal with here.
sure. I mean, I'll just, I guess, back up just a little bit. Back in 2015, DEP did approve the incorporation of this whole area to go on to tight tanks.
Right.
Based on, a number of studies, nitrogen loading in this particular area. So really by Title V and by the local regulation, tight tanks will not be allowed for new construction or increases in design flow. I think with new construction in Title V, it says increase in actual flow. So I would say going from 2 to 4 would be an actual increase in flow, therefore, making it tough to, for the board really to allow that to happen.
So that
Yeah.
area is not mandated to have tight tanks. It's
It's,
recommended that they have tight tanks. Is that correct?
the way that the regulation is now, it gives, the flexibility of the Board of Health, which could be used, to allow something to happen, but also just to, in any circumstance, to require, any property over there to go onto a tight tank. Sorry, lost my train of thought there a little
We
bit.
would like tight
It's-
tanks.
It's
over
really
Yeah.
so ambiguous that it's almost impossible.
Well, that's why we
It's-
have a court case we have to redo next month.
If
Yeah.
I can I just read this? This is in the Department of Environmental Protection. It says, approval of a tight tank may be granted only to eliminate a failed on-site system when no other feasible alternative to upgrade the system in accordance with 310 CMR 15.001. and it says, tight tanks shall not be approved for new construction or for increased flow to existing systems as approved by the approving authority. So basically, he can do exactly what he wants with that IA system in there. We just would like to see.
Exactly, that's the whole point.
And that's the whole point.
So if we want to make, then we have to redo,
We have to redo this.
and we have potentially redo regulations.
Going to be, that's, should, hopefully was advertised today for
Yeah,
next
coming,
month.
coming up,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they don't exist right now. Okay, any other,
Okay. So is it, just so I understand, because, you know, I'm sort of new to this septic thing. Anybody who feels like it can change the placement of where their septic system is on their property,
Yeah, over there.
anywhere,
well, it has to follow certain
as
regulations.
long as it's not in, you know. So if you just feel like it because you want to move where your house is or whatever, you can do that. That's okay.
Yeah, technically, yeah, you
Yes,
could do that,
if,
yeah.
you know, you
If
have
it
to
meets-
follow all the other rules, but yeah, you can.
If it
Okay.
meets Title V
And
and
we have
local
no
regulations, yeah.
authority over anything like that.
So basically, you didn't even need variance.
We're not asking for
No.
variance. We're
Right.
asking for the approval of a
Right.
permit.
Yeah.
And once again, just to recapitulate, we have the existing system. Yes, we intend to put the new construction in the location where that existing system is, but we don't have to. Excuse me, we could redesign the project considerably
Okay,
and put the house in a different location using the existing 17-year-old IA system.
Right.
And
yep,
live happily ever after
Right.
until it fails,
fails.
at which point we have to do whatever we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're getting an improvement in the overall situation by the relocation of the system with a new system, which is going to function for a longer period of time. You know, I think it's a net benefit.
It's,
Yep.
it's complicated but simple. Go ahead.
I'm confused. I'm sorry. I understand you're moving the 2-bedroom house off to put a 4-bedroom house, but I thought that you would just move the system. So you're going to put in a new system, so they'll get another, they may never need to put a tight tank in. Is that, I am just concerned because that is a area with a lot of erosion, not necessarily that property, but
Well,
over the bridge.
The new system would have the same capacity as the existing system.
The system
So
they have
they're
now
get-
is a 4-bedroom.
Yeah.
Right, so they're just going to put in a whole new IA system.
Yeah, in a different place. On the
So
property.
they're just getting a whole new septic system and not having to put in a tight tank because
Correct.
it's a new construction. I'm sorry, this just doesn't sit well with me because it just seems counterintuitive
But there's no mandate,
to.
no regulation that we have to, you have to have a tight tank there.
The whole thing is, the system hasn't failed. So tight tank is out of the picture.
Right.
You can only put a tight tank if the system failed.
According
They
to-
have a perfectly good system, they can do whatever they
Yeah.
want.
Do we have something showing that the system is working perfectly normal? Any kind of report or does that not get done? An inspection
I'd
report or
have to check on
something?
the last report. There are inspection reports on file with the Board of Health. I don't know how recent they are, but when we were out there doing the percolation test, there was no indication that the system
Yeah, and
was in any type of.
tight tanks require inspection.
Well, tight tank required, well, pumping, you know, as
Yeah.
required.
AI systems?
Not a tight tank, I mean
IA is, yeah, would
Yeah.
be sampling 2 times a year. The property transferred in 2019 or so.
Yeah.
So there should be a Title V from 2019, which I'd need to look up.
And just to re-clarify, the IA that's in the ground now, the tank, the 2 tanks out of there for the IA, those are being relocated and staying on site. We're just replacing the soil absorption system.
But I mean, wouldn't that be the thing that fails? I'm asking, I'm not
Yes,
trying to be
yeah.
flippant, but
That-
that would be, so they're sort of getting an extension of the life of their, I don't know how long IA systems are good for, but I'm just thinking like, it's 17 years old, so now they're getting to put in a new one because they want to put in a bigger house.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's much chance of a failure on the IEA system itself. It's the soil
Okay.
absorption system.
I just have one more question. Can we put a thing on that saying that the new IA system you put in will only be for 4 bedrooms, so you can't increase it again? I mean, you can do what you want and build a house, a 4-bedroom house right now, and if you put in a 6-bedroom IEA system, down the road, you can say, well, I want to add 2 more bedrooms.
That would take a lot of chutzpah to ask for that, I think. We're certainly willing to agree that there would never be any more than 4 bedrooms
Fine,
there.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
History has proven
it's
that there's a lot of
restricted.
chutzpah out there.
Yeah.
We usually have 1 or 2 chutzpah
All right,
per meeting.
so I have to go to another meeting, so I will leave the rest to Merritt, but let's get this done. So you're not, what are we asking for here?
It would either to
Determination?
approve the application or deny the application.
All right, do I have a motion to approve or deny the application?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Anybody
Jim,
second?
what motion did you make?
To approve,
Oh,
to approve.
I didn't hear the word approve.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
approve the application. Do I hear a second? No one's seconding it. Okay.
It is legal for the chair to
I was about to, yeah. I'll second the application. Okay. All in favors?
Aye.
Chairman says aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
One. And,
Oh, no, I approve it.
okay, and Mary?
I'm abstaining because I just am not sure about it, one way or the
You're
other.
not sure? Well, so we have 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1-1.
Application's approved.
Thank you very much. I know it's an unusual case, and it takes a little bit of thinking through, and I appreciate your bearing with us on it.
Well, we've
Thank
had,
you.
the last two have been quite challenging. And I have another meeting, so if
Okay.
you would finish up for me.
All right,
December? No?
it passed. So director's report?
Sure. I was on a cruise on Bermuda last week. No. The beach was fantastic.
So when is this thing coming up to be changed?
So next month in the July meeting, there is a proposal or changes, edits to the tight tank policy regulation that's in place. It's
Do we
a,
have to have a public meeting?
yeah, it's a public hearing, yep. So it's going to be advertised in the paper for the next 4 weeks, and then next month will be a public hearing for the changes, any proposed changes to that regulation. So, and there's the
So that means
joint.
People that have septic systems that are still in good shape, they can do what they want. They can move, add things, as long as, you know, the system has to be failed to get a tight tank.
Until next month.
Well, it's not- but
Until
also
next
it's
month,
new con-
correct?
it's new-
Yeah,
But it's
that's
also
what I'm-
it's new construction, and they, you know, so it's just, it also just, I guess part of the thing is, you know, that area is eroding quickly, and,
No, I
you know,
know.
and it's just kind of, you know, they're, you know, so I guess I'm not
But legally,
comfortable with
they didn't even
a
have to
2-bedroom being called a 4-bedroom.
But yeah, so the opportunity to make any changes will be next month with you know, proposed changes that I've put together, and you know, you can look at and bring to the meeting and propose changes and whatever, however the board feels about that area. There's the joint PFAS meeting next week, June 25th, with the select board. That's at 4 o'clock in the trailer at 131 Pleasant Street.
Has Water Commission been invited?
I'm sorry?
Has Water Commission folks been invited?
Oh, that's a good,
That's like playing without the pilot.
that's a good question. I don't
It
believe
wasn't
so.
on any of the original thing, and I just thought that was really bizarro.
Okay. All right.
So John,
Yes.
let me just clarify, it's next Tuesday, the 25th
Correct,
at
yep,
4 PM,
yes,
trailer.
at the trailer, yep. Yes, yep, at the trailer. And that's a joint meeting with Select Board. It's also hybrid too, so. And the topic is PFAS. So hopefully agenda's posted tomorrow. Yeah, it should be tomorrow. Let's see here, what else? We're still kind of rolling along with the short-term rental stuff. We've had more people apply and more applications and everything that we've approved, so in that sense, it's good. But we're still trying to get people to submit their applications and get everybody on file and on record for moving forward, maybe at one point in time on this island, we'll see, from a zoning standpoint. Yeah, it's beginning of summer, so everybody knows it's pretty crazy on the island, so I'll say with the PFAS testing, it seems recently, I'd say within the past month or two, probably the past 2 months, to me, it seems we've had many more real estate folk in the office collecting samples to get the sampling done at various properties. So that's kind of been an encouraging sign. Yeah, that's about all I have at this moment. So. Unless there's any other questions.
We having COVID clinics this fall? I remember hearing something about that.
That's a good question. I'll check in with Jericho and our health nurse. As you know, we're currently down a director, and our environmental contamination administrator, he resigned or retired back in early May.
Yeah.
And our health nurse has been out on maternity leave. And we do have another office staff member, because that position's open as well right now. And I believe that's starting in July. And that's a position which is mainly under Health and Human Services, under Jericho, the Human Services Director, but also helps out with health department stuff as well. So looking forward to getting a full staff and being able to, really have a concerted time for all these topics, because obviously we're facing a lot of important things right now, as always. But excited for, new things coming.
Do we have, is the job posted for the environmental? I just think with the PFAS summit coming up and
Right.
how much it
I
is.
don't believe it's been posted yet. I
Okay.
think it's been approved for, there was a few changes to the job description, which I believe have been approved. So hopefully that's something posted soon.
Great.
And, yep, that's about it.
All right.
We're always open. Come down. Ask us any questions.
So motion to adjourn. That's it.
Make a motion to adjourn
Second.
today's meeting?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sure. Oh, good, right.